Listening discretion is advised. This podcast may contain graphic content, triggering themes, adult language, and unapologetic book spoilers. We don't hold back because real stories are gritty, raw, and worth telling. Your mental health matters. There is no shame in seeking help, support, or stepping away when you need to. This is Slow Burn, where we go deep, move slow, and let the fire speak.
Hello and welcome. It's not every day that you meet someone whose work is rooted not just in storytelling, but in truth, resilience, and the power of survival. Today, I'm sitting down with an author whose voice is as raw as it is powerful. Someone unafraid to write the hard things, speak the painful truths, and turn lived experience into something deeply moving. Because some people tell stories and some people survive them. So today we're diving into the heart behind the words, talking about healing, vulnerability, advocacy, and what it means to write from places that have been broken, rebuilt, and made stronger. We're talking about the courage it takes to share your truth, the responsibility of telling difficult stories, and the healing that can come from putting pain into words. So get comfortable. This is Slow Burn, where we go deep, move slow, and let the fire speak. So let's get into it. Hi, Allie Shaw is with us this evening.
Hello, Miss. Thank you for having me. What a beautiful intro. And thank you for your wonderful contribution to the 16% of humans that read for fun. Let's see if we can boost that statistic tonight.
People should read for fun.
I know.
Love reading. I love, especially during downtimes where I want to avoid all adult responsibilities, and I can read a book a day. I can go hardcore at avoiding all things adult and read an entire book a day.
Me too.
And
love it.
Not feel guilty about it and enjoy every single ounce of it.
Yeah, you shouldn't feel guilty. It's a beautiful thing.
No, I know. So before we dive into the real heavy stuff tonight, how are you feeling? Are you guys in spring where you are? Are you getting warmer?
So it's the craziest thing. We live at the beach and it is cold. It's really cold. We've been wearing vests and coats and, we get a warm day and then it gets cold again. So hopefully soon. How about you?
We are in the Midwest, so we are in 37th winter.
Boy.
We pop from 90 degrees one day to 47, 52 degrees the next day with tons of rain. We've had I think last night we got 3 inches of rain and thunderstorms.
Wow.
And we have wind and it's crazy. I will be happy when it all just settles down. I think there was supposed to be snow in the forecast. I always tell people who move here, don't ever count snow out until Easter is done. That's where we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had an early Easter this year, so that one's a little harder.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that snow will be threatening you for a little while longer, I guess.
I know. I'm hoping that we get the quick turn because a few weeks ago it was 90 degrees every day, and then today it was pretty weather. So, yeah, I really just wanted to pick a temperature. I really just don't care.
Yeah, just want some consistency. Yeah.
Yes,
We have a drought though. We really need rain. So I'm ready for some rain.
It's been raining for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So what are some things that are bringing you joy right now? Books, hobbies, chaos, comfort rituals?
Gosh, that's such a great question. And it's so funny. I think I listened to a meditation recently where they asked the same question. And honestly, that is what's bringing me joy. Really setting intention in the morning with a routine that is all about, taking control of the day before the day takes control of you. So, yeah, I do a lot of, word games, New York Times type games to get going and some meditation, that kind of thing. And I do a lot of walking. My husband and I play pickleball. So just trying to stay active, I guess. You know, we live in a really beautiful place and trying to be thankful for that every day. So, how about you? What's bringing you joy?
Let's see. I have been trying really hard to get better at the same like meditation type, but with my tarot cards. I kind of set them aside for a really long time, and I think it's a really good way for self reflection. It gives you just time to think and process. As one of our past guests calls it, spicy psychology, right? Like, because I mean,
Yeah.
it's really just kind of up for interpretation of, what's going on in your life. So it just gives me time to kind of think and self reflect and look at how my day is going or the trajectory. And if there's things that I need to change or things I'd like to change. I'm also trying to be more active because where I work, we're in a steps competition throughout the entire organization.
Oh,
So
nice.
my current like building, we're really competitive. So like we're
Mm-hmm.
all on this like app trying to track our steps. So my dog is super excited about that because I try to when it's out, come home and take her for extra walks so that we can get that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And then I enjoy hiking. So now that it's getting warmer, like finding new places to hike is wonderful. I am not above driving like 4 hours to go find some place beautiful to hike that I've never
Yeah.
been. Um, we found once, oh, probably 2 years ago, we were driving and there was like this little sign on the side of the road that said like waterfall, and I was like, make a U-turn. So like
Love it.
and like we went down this side road and we get there and there's all this signage about how it was like where the red fern grows was recorded. And it was this
Oh,
beautiful
wow.
waterfall. And I was like, and it's this like teeny tiny little brown sign. I was like, why is there not bigger signage for this?
That's incredible. Wow, what a
Uh,
moment.
yeah, and it was just so beautiful. And so our friend C, she is my hiking buddy. And so, yeah, she will just go and do whatever adventures with me. It's wherever it takes us. We rarely end up where we were supposed to go in the first place. But we have ended up in like Arkansas and Oklahoma. And because being in
Wow.
the Midwest, like everything's fairly close. So, I mean,
Yeah.
within a 4 hour drive, I can be in a different state. Um, and then when I finished all my cancer treatments, 2 years ago, we all went to Colorado and did the Manitou Incline. That is not
Wow.
good news, by the way.
I
like
bet
I,
not. Doesn't sound
I
like it.
still have nightmares about those steps, man. But that was quite an experience too, just doing that with the people I love and then seeing like the sights and getting to the top and just looking around and just being in awe of all of that. Like I think just nature itself brings me joy and just taking a
Yeah.
big deep breath in all of it, right?
And
So
knowing that
yeah.
your body was ready to do that after treatment, that's super empowering, don't you think?
Yeah, it took me 4 hours, 4 hours, but I was okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
I
did
was
it.
okay
That's
with
that's the important part.
it. Right? I was
Yeah.
like, whoo, we're having it. I was tired, but we did it. And I pushed through and they pushed through. And then they all waited at like the first to last step for me to get up there so that we could all cross at the top together. It was a really great moment.
Oh, that's
So
incredible.
yeah. And
Congratulations
then
to you. That's amazing.
thanks. And they had people take pictures of us all crossing together. It was great.
Oh, that's great.
So as we
Definitely.
transition into this, deep conversation that we're going to have, if someone had to understand you through one book, song, or movie, what would that be?
Wow. I really don't know how to answer that. I guess, it's interesting because, my story falls into so many different categories, right? So I've
Mhm.
experienced loss, chronic illness, sexual assault, abuse, divorce, a lot of different things. So it's hard for me to put one song or movie on that Can you think of one where it's basically like the waterfall of adversity is the
right?
theme for it?
I mean, I feel like Waterfalls by TLC covers the
Yeah, that could be a good one, right? Right?
that brings out like my inner 90s child right there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, that could be a good one. Definitely. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. Who is Ali Shaw beyond the Bible?
Yeah. So I guess it's interesting. I ran across this quote recently. Have you heard of Edith Eger? She's a psychologist. She's a Holocaust survivor. Have you heard of her?
The name sounds really familiar.
She's like 98 years old, so she's still alive. And her focus with her psychology background was PTSD recovery. And she has this amazing quote that goes something to the effect of the biggest concentration camp is the one in our mind, and we hold the key in our pocket. So, I know when you and I originally talked, we were kind of discussing the idea of censorship.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like my story begins with silent generation behavior that was passed down from two grandfathers that fought in World War II. So that's kind of another reason why I gravitate to that quote, because I feel like that's who I was for several decades. Oh gosh, my trauma started at age 18 and just, kept going for, 25, 30 years. And so I never really had the tools to know how to work through any of those things because, I was taught you don't talk about the hard stuff. You might go to church and pray about it, but that's about it. And that did not work for me. And so during the pandemic, I don't know how that was for you, Miss, but there was so much solitude and quietness that I was constantly triggered about things that I thought were securely buried. These things like, a couple of sexual assaults that I never had any intention of talking about. And, I'm watching my children do their online studies, and, things are just continuing to ping me, all these different traumas. And I decided, you know what? I am working from home, but I have these big blocks of time. I'm going to just start writing about it. And so the therapeutic process of writing is where, kind of my passion and purpose began. Because ultimately, we have a blended family, but I have 6 daughters and 1 son. And a lot of them at that time were teenagers. And I kept thinking, okay, I need to put something out there, at least for my children, so that they can assimilate the behavior of a predator before becoming a victim. So that's where it really started for me. But, it's interesting. When we're going through some of these things, and, you've been through many difficult things yourself, but when other people are involved and they have control of part of the narrative or all of the narrative, we start dealing with these complicated emotions like shame. And, that's really what Dr. Egger is talking about. She's talking about that internal conflict, that internal power that is basically sabotaged by shame, by limiting beliefs, by fear. And so, during COVID, I was determined to get all of that out and figure out the pieces of what I needed to do to be the best mom that I could be. Because I felt distracted. I felt like, all these things were always bubbling to the surface and pulling focus from being as attentive as I could be to the children. So that's kind of where it started.
Do you feel that writing has now become part of your healing journey?
I do. It's interesting. The first edition of my memoir came out right after COVID, and then a couple of weeks ago I put out a second edition because I really didn't feel like the story was finished. So, I started workshopping basically different therapeutic processes during that 4-year process between the two books so that I could add that into this second edition to really be able to provide a roadmap for people that, maybe they grew up much of the way that I did. You know, you just, we're not given the tools. There's this stigma about therapy. You know, it's just, we need to normalize the conversation, in my humble opinion, and that just was not happening. So I decided I was going to try to start the process, at least in my own circles. So,
That it's funny that you mentioned that. I have in a past life did social work for a it was to prevent child abuse and neglect, and it was to end cycles. The moms who were in the program had to have experienced some type of basically trauma in their background, or been a young mother, or not finished high school. Like, they had boxes they had to check, right, in order to qualify for
mm-hmm.
the program. And then we were to go into the home and coach them to basically try to end these cycles so that we weren't continually repeating what they know. Um,
Right.
and that was one of the biggest things, because of course, like, we're going into low socioeconomic neighborhoods, where it was so eye-opening, and so many of them where, as being, for lack of a better term, the white lady, right, in so many spaces, I would have dads that would be part of it, which I loved, right, that there were moms and dads, both active parts of this program, but dads that would say, you don't get out of your car until I come walk you inside. You don't walk out of
Mm.
to your car until I walk you outside, because they need to know that you're mine. If you hear a noise and I tell you to get down, you get down. If you like,
Wow.
um, and so, I mean, those were the types of neighborhoods I went in, and those were stories, I didn't tell my mom until after I didn't work there anymore. But, like, because I was
Yeah,
in my 30s,
sure.
and not that she didn't know. Like, I mean, when you're in that position, and then I tell her what counties I'm covering, because I mean, when you're covering low socioeconomic, there's only so many counties you're going to cover, right? It's not going to be the affluent counties in the areas. And I was on the Missouri side. And so then, and then as part of that, as we're talking about the trauma, and we're doing postpartum checks on the moms, and talking about postpartum depression. That was one of the biggest things, especially from the dads, right? Like, we don't
Mm.
talk about mental health. We don't discuss that we're not okay. We
Yeah.
don't discuss that these things are happening. And me being who I am, right, with my no filter and my, whatever, because I did create these relationships. There was one family that I went to, and they were on the verge of having their children taken away. And I said, we need to talk about that. And she was like, I don't want to talk about it. And I said, no, we have to talk about that. What is your
Mm-hmm.
plan when they come
Mm-hmm.
take your children? No, we're not going to
Right.
talk about that. That's too hard to talk about. And I said, but if we don't talk about it, honey, they're coming to take your kids. Like, this
Yeah.
isn't something that we can just keep sweeping under the rug, like your alcoholism, sweetie. Like, this is something
Yeah.
we have to, like, this is not the elephant in the room. This is like a
Yeah.
legit problem.
Right.
And so, and it took that, like, eye-opening conversation with her, just for her to sit there and be like, but I don't, but I don't want to. And I said, I don't really care what you want. Like, it's,
Right.
you address this or you lose your kids. And
Right.
it was similar conversations with some of these parents. You address the mental health issue,
Yeah.
or I'm going to have to hotline, and we're going to have to come in and take the kids. Like,
Right.
and nobody wants to have to come do that. But there is such a stigma, especially in communities where there is that low socioeconomic impact, where it is such a stigma to talk about your mental health. It is such a stigma to say that you are struggling. It is such a stigma to say that you can't handle what's happening in your life, and that you're not okay with the fact that you can hear gunshots down the road, or you're not okay
Mm.
with fact that you don't know where your next meal is coming from, or that
Right.
you're considered homeless because you're couch surfing, or because like all these things are occurring. And
Right.
pre-COVID, we used to be a very trauma informed society in so many areas, in the medical
Right.
field, in the education field, in the social work field. And I feel after COVID, we took like this big, weird, like left turn and started focusing on all these other odd deficits they thought that we were coming up with after being on lockdown for so long. But I feel like we quit looking at the fact that COVID in itself was this whole new level of trauma that nobody was prepared for.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about the amount of, separations and divorces, people that realized that, their marriages were hanging by a thread and were only surviving because they went to work each day and they had the break from the spouse. I mean, so many things changed after that. Our inabilities to be, teachers for our children in our home, there was so much pressure coming at you from every direction, not to mention, as you said, if you're living in a complicated living situation, you don't know where your next meal is coming from, or you're living in a neighborhood that is unsafe, uncertain. I mean, there were just so many things that we approached that we weren't familiar with. So you're right.
Yeah. And I mean, then you had those who were in domestic violence situations that were
Yes.
suddenly locked in small spaces with people who it was just a nightmare for some
Yeah.
people in so many ways.
Yeah. It
Um,
really was.
and
Yeah.
so I think that's, where it comes into your writing. Like, what responsibility do you think comes with writing these difficult and painful truths for people, you know, setting that free?
Yeah, so I mean, it's always important, you have a social work background, so it's always important to say that, whatever I write is not replacing, medical advice from a professional or therapeutic advice from a professional. But I think sometimes the gift of perspective can be the greatest catalyst for the start of our healing process, because so many people feel alone. You went through cancer, I went through cancer, and it's a very isolating experience because you know most time we don't have a close friend that's been through that. And so trying to write about a variety of different traumas, I felt kind of became like passion and purpose for me. Like, it felt like crazy that all of these things had happened, right? All of these different categories had been represented, and it couldn't have all been for nothing. So I tried to really write them in such a way, with almost like short stories, so that people, going through a divorce, going through chronic illness, sexual assault, divorce, domestic violence, any of those categories that were represented by the readers, that they could, read a story that would give them hope, that would give them, maybe a few details about what I did to find my happiest life, because that's what I'm living today. It might have been, 30 years of, mostly difficult trials, but it all ended up in a good place. And I just really want to provide that for people, because I feel like there's not enough hope out there. People are just, you know, down and out. It's hard.
Yeah. Have you ever just struggled deciding how much of yourself to put out there?
Yes, because um, part of my story, like I would say the part that really affected my identity, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 19, and went through chemotherapy. And when I came back to school, my parents had basically like covered every need of mine, my emotional wellness, my physical wellness, all of it, because I was just so ill, in the hospital a lot. And when I returned to school, um, one of our family members visited me, and he was twice my age, and my parents were like, "Oh, he's coming to do this thing. Can he just stay on the couch?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And I I did not see it coming. Like, I honestly, I believed he was gay. And about 8 o'clock after we went to dinner, he sexually assaulted me in my one bedroom apartment. And that experience was the hardest to write about because it wasn't just about me, it was about our family. I changed the name, but I'm sure everybody knew who I was talking about. And just knowing that I was putting something out there that was going to potentially cause friction was difficult. You know, it was more than my story, but I felt like it was so important to tell because this person, he didn't just sexually assault me, he attempted to sexually assault another family member. So this was a chronic behavior for him. And I'm sorry, but that is just not something I could stay quiet about. And I stayed quiet about it for 25 years. And when I finally talked about it, there was so much fear behind it, you know? They just, he did such a number on my mind, just the narrative that he would play over and over, trying to convince me that it was something that it wasn't. And so sharing that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to share, honestly.
Was your family supportive after you shared, or did you have any family backlash after?
My parents were so furious, and I think they felt really bad because, I mean, we all believed he was gay, honestly. Like, I think they were like, oh, it's going to be totally fine. It'll be like, a fun, like, get together for you. No, no,
Hmm.
pressure, no, we just didn't know. And so I know they felt really bad about it. But, I did tell um, one of my other female family members, but I didn't really talk about it with the other ones. I'm sure there was chatter that I wasn't privy to, but I just really felt like it was really sad in a way. It felt like a death because we had this family tradition, this family reunion we would do around a birthday for my great grandmother. And it just felt like, it almost felt like that was a lie, miss, because I don't know, it just all felt so wholesome and safe. And then, this person had totally misrepresented himself and from the entire, 20 plus years of knowing him. So yeah, I don't know. It
Unfortunately,
was a
that's what
really,
they do, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
um, I'm glad that you had family support. Uh,
yeah.
in a similar-ish situation, I was much, much younger, 5, 6. Finally told my parents when I was in my teens that it occurred. Um, and my dad, because it was somebody from his side of the family, of all people, said, "Well, don't tell anyone. They've been through enough."
Oh my gosh.
That was the response. And I think that's what's hung over my head forever, right? Like, I feel like that was the hardest part. Not even so much the crap that happened, or like the healing process or the growth, or I think it was just the blatant, like, disregard, right?
It was
Like,
like all about appearances, it
right.
seems like.
And it's not like we were affluent or anything, right? It's not like we had a name to protect. Um, and again, not saying that that person hadn't gone through a lot, right? Like, but also, like,
Yeah.
what about your daughter and what she went through, right? Like,
So how
and
did
so
that affect your relationship with your dad?
yeah, we don't talk. I mean, for a plethora of reasons, right? I think that was just like the start of the downward spiral for him
Mm-hmm.
and I, and then he just made poor life choices moving forward from there. That just continually became poorer and poorer and poorer. Um, I honestly have no idea where he is at this point in my life. And
Oh, jeez.
um, I'm not sure that bothers me, sadly. Just
Well,
knowing
yeah,
knowing things that had happened. And the sad part is, and my mom and I have talked about it 100 times, the sad part is up until that point, he was a really great dad, right? And then all of a sudden, I don't know if you'd call it a midlife crisis. I don't know if he just finally got comfortable enough to let us all know who he really was. I don't know. Like, like I don't know what came out of the bag with that, right? But yeah, I mean, there were just so many things, and then as time went on, you talk to other people and you find out just so many, just so many uncomfortable things that people are like, well, I didn't want to tell you because it was your dad, or I didn't want to, and I'm like, great, cool, thanks.
mm,
And it was just kind of like, just add that to the list. And I allowed him to be in my son's life because I was like, my beef isn't his, and then
yeah,
he made his own mistakes with my son, and my son chose that's his path and direction with him, and I stayed out of it. Again, his choices, not mine. Um, and then that's kind of where it stayed. But I think that was my hardest part, though, because you're always you grow up being told that the people you can count on most, right? And especially as a little girl, it's like you're always daddy's little princess, you're always daddy's little girl, you're always, like, and then turn around and be like, yeah, don't say anything. Like, I was just like, cool. Yeah, like, and I think that's what just like struck me the most. Because
yeah,
part of me was like, I didn't have any intention of telling anybody at this point. It's been 12, 13 years. Like, I've processed my beef with it, right? Like, but then,
yeah.
like, at the same point, I was just like, damn, like, what the hell? Um, but
I don't know if you feel like this. I almost feel like, for so many years, men got a pass for bad behavior, right? Like before the Me Too movement, you hear about all these stories, all these things that like Harvey Weinstein did to these actresses. And it just felt like, the culture was completely different. And I don't know if that like trickled down to, where you and I lived, in these tiny towns, and, where people just said, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal. Just let it go, and it is a big deal, it is a big deal. And as much as I hate that you had that, um, response from him when you needed him the most. I mean, at least we're starting to see like incremental change with that. I think, people are speaking up more. You're creating a place where people can talk about those hard things, because, it is so difficult to be betrayed by someone that's supposed to have your back, but it's also, you know these are the lessons that are going to change someone else's life, miss. Somebody else, some other teenager is sitting around listening to this podcast thinking, okay, so I'm not alone. And just knowing that
nobody,
they're not alone is so powerful. It really is. There's
yeah.
comfort in that.
And I think you're right saying, like, looking at the places we came from, or, you know, going back to where they came from. I mean, they, he came from a place and time where no one was going to call DCF for the fact that they got beat every day, right? Like,
Yeah,
no one was going to come in and take the kids away because their stepdad, like, had a hard hand, right? Like, that's
yeah,
just, that's how that time was, right? Like,
yeah,
um and so some of that, I mean, with him I'll have to agree to disagree, right? But I mean, I think that that's
yes,
just that time, that era, that thought process, right? Like, we just don't
yeah,
talk about these things. It's the same with mental health, right? We just
yeah,
don't talk about the uncomfortable things. We
Yeah,
don't talk about the things that are going to make people like lives harder, right? Because we all have hard
right,
lives. So let's not make it worse. And I think
right.
that's just the where we live or where they lived,
Yeah.
right? I'm just a really outspoken, I don't know how the heck he birthed a daughter with a mouth like this, but I mean like
I love it though, because I I was the absolute opposite for so long, like just didn't step out of line, kept everything to myself, and I wish that I had found my voice sooner. So good for you.
no, my
Seriously.
mom loves to tell the story about how when I was like 3 or 4, like the one time ever, like nobody called the people, she backhanded me. I was in the car and in the back seat, and she said something, and I ignored her as one does. And she said, "Did you hear me?" And my response was, "Do you think I'm deaf or something?" So, like, this has been like a lifelong sassy.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, I also have a part-time job where I work, and the owner likes to also tell people that I was the babysitting fail, that she babysat me one time and refused to go back because I looked at her and said, "I don't have to listen to you."
Oh Lord, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just like, this is deep in my soul. Like, I was born
Yeah,
this way.
I
So,
love
do
it.
you think pain changes the way we create things?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a reminder that we're distracted. I mean, whether it's emotional pain or physical pain, we can't I don't think you can be fully productive when you have pain, nudging you from the recesses of your subconscious or wherever it might lie. I think that it's a powerful motivator for sure.
I might be a super unpopular opinion about
No, no.
pain and things like that. And it's not about that I think it does change how we create. But I also feel that in the end, right? I'm a firm believer that we give forgiveness to people who don't even ask for it, right? Because it's
Hmm.
good for us. However, I feel, at least for me, 99% of my pain and my suffering and my overthinking and my rabbit holes and spirals and all the turmoil and all the bullshit and all the things, they come from me, right? Like the stuff I lived through and the things that happened, they were this tiny little snapshot. Like
Right.
I I'm the one whose brain like brings them up again or doesn't process them or holds on to them, or like I feel like my headstone is going to say a couple different things. One, like she'd still be alive if she would puke cuz I hate throwing up. Like I'll do just about anything but that. And
Hmm.
like she probably would still be alive if she wasn't holding this grudge, right? Like cuz I just won't
Hmm.
let shit go. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's on me. Like I could have forgiven you, but I sure as hell didn't forget, right?
Yeah.
That's I think sometimes so much of this pain is so internal that like we sit on ourselves. And for me, I feel like sometimes I feel like it's cuz I'm supposed to still be mad, damn it. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to still be mad. Why am
Right.
I not still mad? Like, and I'm supposed to still be upset, and I'm supposed to still have my feelings hurt, and I'm supposed to still be outraged that these horrible things happened. And then sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, but why? Why do I still have
Yeah.
to be outraged? Why do I still have to let this control my thoughts and my feelings and my relationships around me and how I'm doing things? And sometimes I feel
Yeah.
like it's not the person who did this shitty stuff. It's me that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe you just don't have a process yet. You know what I mean? Like maybe you don't know how to work through it. I think, processing trauma and processing, difficult relationships and stuff like that, I would imagine it's kind of like the grieving process. There's different pieces to it, denial and anger, and we have to work through those pieces, or, there's always something that's going to be pulling you back into the drama, right? And I just, I don't know, my motivator is the kids. I mean, you have a son, how like I think as women, we just have so much on our minds all the time. We play so many different roles in our children's lives, and it's especially when you're going at it on your own. There's just so much happening at once, and yeah, I don't know. I guess
I was a single mom for 19 years, right?
that's
And so
amazing.
I just like my main motivator was to just be the kind of mom that he could be proud of, right? Like
Yeah,
whatever that looked like. And so for
yeah,
me, I felt like that was going to school and getting degrees and showing him what hard work looked like. And then
yeah,
like now 19 years later, like I wonder, was it was that not the way, right? Like should I have shown him what a healthy relationship looks like? Should I have shown
yeah,
him what, like there's always these what ifs, right? Like
yeah,
how could I have turned this around? How could I have done this differently? Did I show him all the right things? And I think any phenomenal parent is going to what if themselves to death, right? What if I would have done this
yeah,
differently? What if I would have done this differently? I could have done this better. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have yelled then. Maybe I shouldn't have got upset about that. Oh, what if I, had let them go to that party? Or, like, I feel like questioning yourself as a parent is one of like the greatest like earmarkers of being a great parent, right? Like,
yeah. It shows how much you care,
right.
how invested you are.
So,
Absolutely.
what has because your memoir talks about your hardest seasons in life, right? You
Yeah.
have your sexual assault, you have your divorce, you have abuse, and now you've come to the end of the rainbow and you're living in your pot of gold in your lovely, blended family that sounds beautiful. So, what has your hardest season taught you about you? Not about your life, not about, struggles or what to expect out of life, but out of you personally,
What has it taught me? Is that what you asked
about
me?
yourself. Yeah.
Mm, I would say pay attention, because I feel like, we were just talking about the kids and all the things that, we second guess about how we show up for different people in our lives. And I feel like there were seasons where I just went through the motions because I was so distracted with things that had happened. And being in the moment, and this is a perfect example, being in the moment right here with you and having this beautiful conversation is, it's so important, right? And it's like, there are so many things in life that we just zoom through. We just try to, click it off the list, check it off the list. And I want to be in the moment of my life. I had a very aggressive cancer, and I've had cancer cells reappear over the years in different places, and we don't know how much time we have in this life. You're a survivor, you probably feel some of that. And I just I don't want to be I don't want to be numb, and because I feel like I had a tendency to either run or numb. So, that it could be alcohol, it could be food, it could be, consumerism, it could be anything you use to numb or run, run away from your problems. And I just feel like in this season, there's no filter. I'm just paying attention and trying to be in the moment, moment by moment. And it's important because we don't know how many moments we get. So, yeah.
I worked with someone once who I would come in and I'd be so frustrated about my son, so frustrated. And what you said just about made me cry. So if I tear up, I'm very sorry. That was very
Oh,
beautiful.
no.
But she used to tell me all the time, she's like, you're going to miss this. You're going to miss this one day. And I was like, I'm not going to miss doing math. But
Yeah.
then, I look around sometimes and I miss coming home and having him ask me what's for dinner, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, girl, I get it. I'm an empty nester too. And I think back to, oh, so many examples of, them coming home from school and doing their homework and eating dinner and watching a show together. And it's like you take so much of it for granted. You think you're going to have a million of those days where you get to, watch them hop off the bus and come in and eat their snack and
Listen to
then
those
it's
stupid
all,
Minecraft videos.
oh my gosh, I know. Yes, all the TikToks that played 24/7 that you couldn't run away from
I know.
and now it's like you would give anything to have those back,
I know. Sometimes I just want to hear Sunday's voice just so I know. No. Just
Yeah.
so I
Oh
can go back.
yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is one lesson that you wish younger Allie knew?
Gosh, to use my voice, because seriously, I beat myself up several times a month. Well, I would say previous to, I did a really interesting therapy that I'll tell you about, but I felt like I was so mad at myself for not speaking up and, especially with the incestuous assault, not kicking him out, not using my voice, not being brave in that moment, just feeling like I felt like a little girl again because I had, been back with my parents. There were, it was such a confusing time. And so just knowing that, gosh, I just want, especially my daughters, I want my daughters to know that they need to use their voice as women. They need to stand up for themselves and not allow, I've had so many patriarchy situations where, I have been muted. This book was not popular in my religious circles. I basically had to stop going to a church because of this book. And it's just, it was a hard time because I felt very rejected in a lot of ways. And it was hard to use my voice, but I won't stop. It's something that I realize I should have done way before my 40s. So big regret of mine, my friend.
I mean,
You inspire me.
I think having a voice is so important.
Yeah.
And sometimes I sit here and think I wish I listened to my inner voice more. I feel like it's rarely wrong, but I push it down and because I want what I want, right? I want a specific outcome, right? I was with
Yeah.
someone for 5 years that like it wasn't just like red flags flying, like it was like big huge blankets and banners going, right?
Oh
And
no.
great guy, right? Good intentions. He moved away for a while. Um, Finally asked me to move away with him. And then when I quit my job and packed up the house, he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I'm coming there." And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because you asked me to." And he was like, "Oh, I forgot." And I was like, "You forgot?" Like, who forgets? Like,
Wow.
and it's like, and part of me says I should have just listened to my inner voice and I should have listened to my, C, who was like, he's awful. Like, she won't even call him by his name. She calls him Voldemort just because, like, she
Oh
refuses
gosh.
to say his name, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry. I feel like that's trademarked by J.K. Rowling, but like, she won't even like say his name, and it's like I knew better. For 5 years, I
Yeah.
knew better, but I had this specific end game that I wanted, right? I think
Yeah.
we have these specific outcomes that we just think are so much better than what like our intuition tells us, right?
Yeah. Oh
But,
yeah.
but then at the
Definitely.
same time, if I would have listened to that, I wouldn't have my amazing son. I wouldn't have gone through a hell of a lot of stuff, but like I
Yeah.
wouldn't have my son and I wouldn't be where I am now. And like I think about it and I don't think I'd change anything, right? I'd go
Yeah.
through it all again. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think I need to be a polished version of myself, right? I think I'm
Yeah.
okay rough around the edges and just how I am. And
Yeah, that's, I mean, I've been in people pleasing mode for way too long. And that's, this book has really helped me to kind of get through that. So kudos to you for not being in that spot. It's tough.
do you think this book is obviously for everyone, but do you
Yeah.
think that this is a good book for younger readers, like your, college age readers, your, high school age readers thinking about things that are happening in their lives?
Yeah. So, my story started with, oh gosh, a really big loss. I was 18, I'd started college, and the guy that I thought I was going to marry was killed by a drunk driver. And that, when you are 18 and I just don't think you really believe things like that are going to happen. I mean, I think more and more we're seeing these catastrophic car accidents, so maybe the reality is a little bit more tangible now. But I just in that time I couldn't believe it. And what I thought since then is it is important for, I mean, I would say people that are 17, 18 should read my book because it really addresses that triple curveball phenomenon where they say superstitious that or superstition says that bad things come in threes, and that was my experience a lot of the time. And the sad thing is, miss, is you get hit with three things at one time. You've layered them up. You have no idea what to face first, what to rehabilitate first, and then you just don't end up making progress with anything because it's just so difficult. So um, I just really felt like it was important to address that because so many people are dealing with so many things all at once. So
I think we get into that fight, flight, or freeze, right? And I think we just
yeah,
all end up in that freeze position, right?
yeah, oh yeah,
I don't think we end up in fight or flight. I think we just kind of freeze and don't know where to go or what to do anymore. I know
yeah,
very
you're
few
right.
who fight, right? So yeah, I think your message is amazing. I think more people should talk about the pain and the healing process and the things that we go through that are so real and
Yeah,
so just ugly. I don't I, the world isn't pretty. The world is full of ugly, and
yeah,
we don't necessarily talk about that enough. And maybe that is my appeal to the morally gray, right? Like I talk a lot
yeah,
about how like I'm attracted to the morally gray,
sure,
MMC. And maybe that's my appeal because he doesn't try to be polished and he doesn't try
yeah,
to be anything but who he is, right? So
yeah,
maybe that's that appeal, that he's not trying to be like, the perfect billionaire. He's just like, dude, I kill people. That's cool. Like, just because I prefer that authentic piece, right?
yeah,
So, and I
agreed.
think that so many times we're all trying to fit into like this mold, right? We all want to
Yeah,
present that we have it all together and that our ducks are in a row and that we're, whatever. And I don't have ducks. Pretty sure I have
yeah,
squirrels, and I'm pretty sure they're at a rave. Like
yeah,
I
right.
mean, just, I don't even try.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure one of them isn't even in this vicinity. Like it is gone rogue.
yeah,
But I wish more people had a voice, and I wish you mentioned the Me Too movement, and I think that took a wrong turn at one point and became something that it shouldn't have been.
yeah,
And it didn't go the way that it needed to, because that movement could have been so powerful. Um,
yeah,
but I think that that's the beauty of writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or poetry,
yeah,
or however you decide to put those pieces together. I think that's what makes writing so beautiful, is that you can at least for me as a reader, I can always find a piece of myself in there somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. A way that you can relate to a character. That's
right.
true. Yeah.
And I think that that's where my healing process comes from, right?
Yeah.
The way the character finds a way to heal gives me one more tool to put into my toolbox, right?
Yeah.
Of
Oh,
how
yeah.
to get past certain things or how to get past the next hurdle that's
Right.
coming up.
Right.
So you had mentioned
Absolutely.
that you were on a new sleep schedule because you have a new project. So let's talk about what's next for you
Yes.
creatively.
Yes. I'm so excited. So I started working on a fiction project and partnered with a really awesome publisher in Canada. They're called Wicked Ink, which is just an awesome name.
I love that name.
And I know it's so cool. And we are working together on a two-book series that is, you're gonna love this because there's definitely like a paranormal element to it. We got some tarot cards in there, so I think you'll like it. But it's tackling the human trafficking pandemic, so shining the light on the fact that 27 million people are affected and it's generating $236 billion in illegal profits. And so I really became interested in trying to create more awareness around it. I was in New Orleans, and this book is set, part of it is set in New Orleans. And just learned more about a charity down there. And then I learned that right here in my backyard in Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington is the 10th most active state for sex trafficking. I'm sorry, active city for sex trafficking because
Is
of the
it because that's where
ports.
all those like CW shows are taped?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's a big port city. Like you see all those huge containers,
Oh yeah.
and it's just
I'm
it's
pretty sure that's where
crazy.
One Tree Hill was taped. That was a great
Yeah,
show.
probably. Yeah, there's a lot taped here or nearby. But Miss, it's crazy. I met with this local charity the other day, and they are building an amazing facility. Actually, it's already built. It's a multi-building like farm essentially that's going to create long-term housing for survivors of
I
sex
love
trafficking.
that. I love
Yeah,
that.
so families, not just individuals. So it's amazing. But the crazy thing though, they said that so many of these predators, these human trafficking predators are finding their victims on dating apps.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the dating apps. I was just
There
stunned by
are
that. Oh, go
so
ahead.
many
Sorry.
fake people on the dating apps. It's awful. I have horror
Yeah.
stories about dating apps, but like there's so many bots and awful, awful things. It does not surprise me that it's dating apps that is drawing these psychos in. But beautiful about
Yeah.
that. I will definitely say kudos to the indie authors that I have read that write mafia romance because 0.9% of them that I have read have like a no skin trade policy for their male main characters. And if they find out that someone is like veered off into the skin trade like that, they will murder
Hmm.
them. And I love that. And they
Oh,
will like
wow.
release the girls and like get them into like halfway houses and, whatever. I love that because that is a beautiful movement that they're highlighting is a problem, right?
Yeah,
Because typically you think
absolutely.
like mafia mob, they don't care, they're just getting their money. But like the books, I like mafia romance, it's fine, but like that is one of the like lines that these like morally gray MMCs are drawing that they do not do trafficking. Like they
Yeah,
don't.
that's incredible.
And so I think that that's a beautiful thing also, like coming into the fiction world, that this is not, we're not even going to write fiction about it. Like
Yeah.
this is a no-go, period. It's
Hmm.
not something that we're going to joke about. It's not something that we're going to pretend is happening. Like our fictional characters don't even condone it. So
Yeah.
I love that this is something that you have a charity that is working towards, I think that's beautiful. I love that you're writing a story that has that paranormal element.
Yeah,
I,
it's
I
been
believe
fun.
it'll be great.
Oh,
So
you're so kind.
I can't wait to read it. Where can listeners find and support you? And where can our listeners find and support this charity?
Okay, so the charity is in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's called A Safe Place. And so can definitely find them online to support them. Hopefully their farm is going to be open soon. I know they're continuing to work on getting grants for that. Um, I my memoir Chasing Tigers in the Dark is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere you buy books. And the fiction project comes out in September. So I'm really excited about trying to connect with a new group of readers, and it is a thriller. So I'm excited about just trying something completely new and out of my comfort zone. So it'll be fun.
How's it going? Like, how is that writing process? Are you like a planner? Do you have like the sticky notes everywhere? Are you just jumping head first? Are you like doing some research on it? Like,
No, I feel like it's kind of been a train wreck. And it's funny because there is a train element in the book, but it's like, writing a memoir it wasn't easy, but it's a lot easier than doing this because, you have one little micro story per chapter. And this one is like a dual timeline and it jumps around. And so just trying to keep it all organized and 90,000 words. So it was a bigger word count than I was used to. And, but this publisher was really it's been very nurturing. Like I feel like it's made me a better writer. The feedback has been really helpful and just kind of developed the story, in a lot of different ways. So we just finished going through the developmental process, and then we're going to start working on the line by line edits in the next couple of months. So yeah, it's exciting.
but okay. So we always end the show with like this really random question that I just kind of type in to get this weird random one. So neither one of us have time to think about it so that
Oh
I
boy.
can't prep any more than the next person.
Fantastic.
Yes. Okay. So the weird random question for tonight is if your creative energy were a room, what would it look like?
Hmm. Hmm. I think it would look like a screened in porch
Ooh.
because there is a current moving through, there's a current like with the wind, and oh gosh, I think the temperature fluctuates throughout the process, so you can feel really energized and then, kind of frozen at times. And so, yeah, you never know what you're going to get from hour to hour. So it is a wild ride, but one that I would not trade. So
I love it. I love it.
thank you.
I think mine is full of color, like lots of splashes of color, very boho, like very big cushy pillows everywhere, very just cozy. I feel like it would just be warm and cozy and super full of color. Just
Love that.
so much color, like I don't know. It would probably give me a headache by the end of it, but like that's what I feel like, just like that chaotic kind of color. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it, just because anytime I try to do something creative, I feel like it just turns out chaotic, but like beautiful in the end. Just like the whole process is like the inside of my brain with the 19 tabs and where's the music coming from. And God love my team at work because like we are the type of people that like you can like say a line and like just anything, right? And like somebody will pop
Yeah.
up with like a song lyric and then we'll all start like dancing and singing to it. And I'm like, that's right.
Oh,
Those are my people.
I love it.
So like
Oh my
uh
gosh, it must be so much fun going to work. I
so
love it.
we have to have fun where we work. So like I mean and it's
Yeah, of
great. And
course.
C is not so good. Like, she's more of a movie person, but she's getting better at it. Like, she'll slide in some stuff now and then, and I get so excited. I had her meet one of my Tinder dates one night, and she popped up with one,
Oh,
and I was like, and she did it out of nowhere, and I went, oh! And he just looked at me. I was like, listen, you don't know this is a big deal. Because like we'll just bust into song because my life is like a whole like it's just a musical. I'm just a walking musical. It's fine. And it's
I
usually
love
like
it.
80s or 90s and it's sometimes a little early 2000s and we'll throw in some rap. It's fine. We'll just
Right
you
on.
know. I sit like all my friends on Wednesday morning like me singing Motown Philly because that's the mood I was in.
Oh, yeah. Good one. It's
I
a
was
good
just like
one.
this is it. Happy hump day. And C was like because we always tell people she's my wife because we used to work together, so she was my work wife, and now she's just my wife. And
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
she's always like, well, we can tell which one of us is the morning person in our relationship. Luckily, her boyfriend is very understanding about the fact that she has a wife and a husband, and I'm like, yep, that's how it's gonna be. Um,
Oh,
but
that's
yeah,
awesome.
I feel like my any of my worlds would be colorful and chaotic and full of music. But
Yes.
that's how we
Got to
craft.
have a great playlist for sure. Got to
Yes,
have a great
every time.
playlist for life.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
Definitely.
some conversations remind us that storytelling is more than entertainment. It's truth, it's healing, it's survival, and sometimes it's the bravest thing we can offer the world. Today's conversation was a reminder that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's power. And that the stories we tell, especially the difficult ones, have the ability to connect us, challenge us, and sometimes even help us heal. So, Allie, thank you for your honesty, your courage, and for sharing your fire with us today. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us for another slow burn conversation. Until next time, keep going deep, keep moving slow, and let the fire speak.
Thank you, Miss.